Now, last week when we chatted with Darian, it was pre-U.S. Thanksgiving, and he was going to have a house full of people. Is all the company still there, or has everybody gone back home, and now the Durant household is kind of back to just a low hum and a normal situation?
Yeah, it's good to be back to normal, man. But it's also good to see family. And like I said, it's one of those holidays where you're happy when it comes about. You get to see everyone and celebrate with the family, but you're so ready for everyone to go after one day. So it was good to see everyone, but I'm glad that it's back to normal, and you can just sit back and relax.
Well, normally in a situation when you're going to have a house full of people and you're married, it usually means you're trying to clean up the house like it's never been cleaned before, because you don't want your company to think that. So next thing you know, you're getting ordered around, you're doing stuff, you're drafting the kids. Like, I know you're six, but you can run the vacuum. You're vacuuming. You're unloading the dishwasher. Darian, are you? Who's doing like? Just kidding. So it's nice to be back, and now we can just talk a little CFL football. I don't know if you've been paying
Absolutely.
attention. Mark Kilam announced as the new head coach of the Edmonton Elks, and the rumor is Jordan Maximic may be the offensive coordinator, and the Riders could be losing J.C. Sherritt as the new defensive coordinator. Let's go back to Kilam, longtime Calgary Stampeders special teams guy. He was the assistant head coach, and apparently the word is every player that he's come across loves him. Did the Edmonton Elks get this right, and Ed Hervey in making Mark Kilam some fresh blood? It's his first ever shot as a head coach in the CFL. Do you think from the outset, I know it's early, did they get this right?
I think so. I think this is a great hire by Ed Hervey and Chris Morris. When you look at historically, when you hire a guy whose background is mostly in special teams, it really tells you that you've been having problems with managing games. And if you look at Edmonton's schedule last year, they lost 6 games by 4 points or less. So, and I'm sure you can point to some of those games as, missed clock management or, a third down gamble that you may have should not have done at the time. So whenever you bring in a special teams guy, that says to me that one, you're going to be physical. You want to change the mentality of your team, and that two, you want to be able to win some of these close games. And special teams coaches, they are excellent at game managing and knowing clock and situations. And this hire speaks volumes to the direction that Edmonton wants to go in, and how they want to kind of change the background of that team and be a lot tougher.
One of the first conversations you and I ever had, you told me the quarterback needs to know every position on the field. Is that the same with the special teams coach? He needs to know every player on the roster intimately because of the small rosters, and punt, kickoff, field goal. You may be using not all 43, but a lot of them in any situation.
Absolutely, and you're using a ton of starters as well. And the special teams coach, he gets the depth charts. He sees what guys are on which special teams. He knows situations. He just has his hand kind of in every player and every situation of the game. So, like I said, this just speaks about situational football. Edmonton wants to get better at managing the clock, being able to, knowing when to gamble. And, historically, like I said, special team coaches have a lot of success. And you can just date back to Mike O'Shea and what he's done in Toronto, and now what he, has been doing with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with that special teams and defensive background. And like you mentioned, whenever the guys love you, you can be a destination for free agents. The players trust you. They trust what you're trying to instill and what you want to bring to that city. And whenever you can get some free agents in there and have a coach that they love, it's a big advantage.
All right. It's a special Wednesday edition of Double Talk here on the all-new Sports Cage with Darian Durant, brought to you by Wolf Industries and Prairie Land Rentals. Now, one of the things I read the other day, now that Kilam has been announced as head coach, Trey Ford is a free agent, and he's had a conversation with Ed Hervey. He would like to have a conversation with Mark Kilam, and obviously, before he signs and you have a brand new head coach, were you ever given that opportunity to talk to a coach before you made a decision? Because obviously, Trey Ford doesn't want to go through what he's just been put through under the Chris Jones era. Although Jones drafted him, you'd never tell that, he was ever his guy, and you got a feel for what he's been through. Did you ever have a sit down with a coach before you decided what you wanted to do?
Yeah. I've just been fortunate enough to have the trust of Jim Hobson and Brendan Taman and Coach Ken Miller of being able to speak with pretty much all the potential candidates coming in, and I was able to get a feel for what offensive coordinators they wanted to bring and the type of system we will be running. So if you have the potential to be a franchise quarterback, it's only right for the administration to give you a chance to speak to the coach, see who he may bring in offensively, what type of system you may be running, especially as a free agent. I mean, Trey Ford is a little bit different. His situation is different. Even though he's not the franchise guy, he's a guy that the city believes in, and a lot of people in that organization believe that he could be the guy. So, I think it's only right for him before he enters free agency to kind of see what direction, Coach Kilam wants to go in offensively.
It was announced today that the BC Lions, their coaching search is over. Buck Pierce has been named head coach of the club, and he will also be the offensive coordinator and the play caller. So they won't be hiring that so it's a dual role, kind of like a Corey Mace, just in reverse. You said something before we get started. This is one of the first plucks from the Mike O'Shea coaching tree. Are you surprised it's taken this long? Because they've been so successful in the CFL before someone has shaken free and gone to another club.
I am. I thought that, especially after winning 2 consecutive Grey Cups, that, these teams around the league would kind of start plucking from that tree. But if you look at the success of Winnipeg over the past 4 years, it's mainly because the continuity and the chemistry that you're able to keep when you can continue to have your staff stay in-house. So I definitely think this is a great hire by BC. Buck Pierce is an awesome coach. You look at what he did with Matt Nichols and then Chris Streveler and, of course, Zach Caleros winning MOP a couple times. He has a proven track record of being able to settle quarterbacks down and make guys play who many people write off or may not believe in. So I think he goes into a situation with an established quarterback. They have some weapons out in BC. So I think it's a tailor-made situation for Buck Pierce.
Now, here's the thing, because the movement doesn't stop, because no one else, there's got to be a defensive coordinator, and then there's got to be all the others. So there could be more movement from other teams, and I look at the Stampeder staff, and it's not filled out. Outside of a couple of coaches for Calgary, you've got Dickinson, and you've got, is it Delmonico there? So there still could be the ripple effect going through all of these other teams and their assistants. So the upheaval continue. It's funny, although it's December, the CFL is still as front and center as ever. If you're a free, I'll ask you, were you ever, or when you're a free agent right now, although it doesn't happen until February, is the norm, are people talking to you right now? Like Darian, like your team, like it's December, the season's over, nothing can happen until February. But if things are going well and they kind of want you back, are you having conversations in early December? Or is it just nothing until like a week before with your agent?
Well, I think it depends on your situation and your team and, how you finish the season. The teams that finished in the playoffs or feel like they had a successful season, guys are going to want to stay there. They have their number. They know what they want. And if that team offers that to them, they're going to take it early. So there is a little period in February, I think maybe a week or two before the actual free agency period that you can, speak with other teams. But other than that, guys who are in good situations, I'm sure they want to come back to those teams. And whenever you have success, you're going to keep a job. And it's the teams that lose and don't make the playoffs. You see so much turnover with those teams. So, you always want to be in a good situation, and guys who are in those situations want to stay there.
All right. Yeah, I mean, Now they call it, there's that 1 week window, but everybody says there's tampering going on. There always has been, and there always will be. And you go from there. And we checked last hour. The Riders have 35 free agents, and they're not like a lot of other teams with all the 1 year contracts. I mean, there's a lot of other teams that are going through it, and your careers are only so long, and it's your job to get the most amount of money as you possibly can because it's for you and your family. And winning is one thing, but financial security, if there is anything like that nowadays, is another, and that's something you have to weigh. And we were wondering if the Stampeders, a team in chaos, will they overpay for free agents this year? Because now that they have FIA, you got to build a team around them. Let's go on. So when you played college football at North Carolina, who was your number one rival? Like, who was the school that you absolutely hated and hated to lose against?
In basketball, it was Duke, but in football, for sure, it was NC State. They are 20 minutes away. It's a heated rivalry between us and them. So NC State was definitely that school.
So on the weekend, we saw in college football, there was fighting at center field because a lot of these away teams won and they went and planted their flag or their spear or whatever it is. So are you telling me in a North Carolina State game, if somebody planted the flag at center field, the fight was on?
Absolutely. This is one of those, unspoken situations in sports, and not in sports, but in football, where it's on site. That's the ultimate disrespect to do it on, someone to do it on your home field, and it's one of the very, very few things that is a fightable offense. So definitely it is for sure. So I get. Even though the home team lost those situations, I get, standing up for your team, your school, your city. And, there could be some physical confrontation that comes with that.
Okay, so you played in Riderville, and you know what Rider Nation was like after a win. You know what they're like after a loss. The highest of highs and the lowest of lows. That's exactly what a college campus is, right? When you're winning, the highest of highs, but it can be the lowest of lows when you lose as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, look, a lot of these teams, it goes down to the wire with recruits. Some are your friends that you may have played against or with in high school. So usually the story goes back a little bit further than what you see on Saturdays in these rivalry games. But, some of these cities, man, they just shut down for football. And when you lose, you don't get to play that team for another year. It's not like in the CFL or maybe the NFL where you could possibly see them again later on in the season. You get one shot per year, and it's all for the bragging rights. And the team that wins, you have a whole year to, put the other team on your back like a little baby.
Well, I mean, like for a lot of them, like Ryan Day, who has an incredible winning record against every other team against Michigan, and he's gone 1-4 in his years there, and they lost on the weekend, and now they were ranked number 5. They probably still going to end up in the top 12, but now they're going to be in the championship games are coming up this weekend, and there's some really interesting ones. Big Ten championship, the number 1 ranked Oregon Ducks, who a lot of people think have really played anybody real, will take on Penn State. Probably the game most interesting to me, SEC championship, Georgia will play Texas. Former Saskatchewan Rough Rider quarterback Steve Sarkisian and his Texas Longhorns and Matthew McConaughey. Did you guys ever have celebrities on your sidelines at North Carolina? Was there anybody that was famous that would show up on your sidelines like McConaughey did?
Well, no. I mean, Michael Jordan wouldn't come back to see a football game. He's probably the most famous North Carolina Tar Heel. But, as time goes on, when you look at a guy like Julius Peppers or Vince Carter, and, they became a lot more famous later on. But, yeah, just seeing those guys and being around those guys a little bit back when I was playing, who would have known that they would, gone on to be Hall of Famers in their respective sports.
Well, one of the things like a lot of people don't get, like Ole Miss, they're going to miss the Big 12, or they're going to miss the championship 12. They spent $20 million on NIL money to bring in recruits to miss. The payroll on a CFL team is what, 5.3 million, 5.4? Yeah. They spent 20 million just on NIL alone. And that doesn't even include their whole roster of kids that are there on scholarships. So the type of money that is being thrown around, and they're not the highest spending team to spend that kind of money. Like you said, in North Carolina, you're a basketball school. So all your bribery money or your NIL money or whatever under the table or whatever you called it back then went to your basketball players. But could you imagine what a young Darian Durant, if they're coming to you at 18 years of age saying, listen, $1 million for this, $1 million for that. We're going to get you. Oh, you want a Maybach? I don't even know what a Maybach is, but I saw one of Deion Sanders' kids driving one on Instagram the other day. It's a really expensive car. You're going to get this or whatever. How hard would it be for you to stay focused on playing football when all of this other stuff is now coming into play? Like, you're a celebrity. You're a high-paid celebrity.
Yeah. And you're pretty much the highest paid guy on campus. I mean, it definitely could be a distraction, man. I couldn't imagine being in that situation when I was 17, 18 years old, having to deal with 6-figure contracts and, people after you and family back home and, just being on campus, you name it. These kids have to grow up fast now. And, it kind of takes the competitiveness out of the sport. You used to have to come into college and compete for a job and the best guy wins. And now it's the highest paid guy plays. It's more turning into more of a professional thing. And I don't know if that's if you're getting the best product out of college football because of that. So you put NIL with the transfer portal, and it's just taking the toughness out of guys. They don't have the mentality to come in and fight anymore. Sometimes a guy has to sit 2 or 3 years before he gets his opportunity and could become a starter at a major university. And now, if guys aren't playing within the first year, they're entering the transfer portal or trying to look for a bigger deal from another school. And it's just taking the competitive nature out of the sport.
It would be incredibly hard to go.
Starters, I'd actually kind of want to circle back to the CFL. There's like so much like QB talent going on right now in a place like Montreal. They're going out and saying that Davis Alexander, they're signing him. And there's conversation like, where does Cody Fajardo land? Like, there's just so much going on. Like, is there even a place in the CFL for a guy like Cody Fajardo to start? Like, what would you do if you're in a situation?
No, if I'm Cody, I would just look for a situation where I can just compete. I don't think there's a situation where he could just be the outright starter. I don't know. I think, every team in the league is pretty set at that position. So if I'm him, I look at a team, like a Calgary or an Edmonton that doesn't have a guy coming back as the solidified starter, but there's an opportunity that I could go in and compete and turn some heads. Or you look for a situation where a guy is historically injured. You go to and you look at Ottawa or you look at Toronto somewhere. I'm sure with what happened to Toronto's quarterback, in the Eastern Final, that may be a situation where he can go in and play right away. So there are some situations that may not be favorable to him, and he, being the competitor that he is, may not just jump out of the box for. But now that I think about it, Toronto may be the best situation for him, where he can go into an established team and just take over right away.
All right, it's the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Darian Durant, a special Wednesday edition of Double Talk. All right, as we switch to the NFL, the big news, Trevor Lawrence injured on the weekend. He's a quarterback. He slid. Did he slide too late? Azeez Al-Shaair suspended 3 games, the Houston Texans. Watching that play, was it a bang-bang? It was a combination of he slid too late, the defender already committed to the hit, and it's unfortunate. Is there a different take? He's done for the season. Now, he's slated to have shoulder surgery anyway, so they're going to shut him down. And then the fight ensues, and then it goes from there. So where do you land on that? We heard Tom Brady saying quarterback's got to take a little responsibility for his own safety. He said that yesterday. Where do you fall in this?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I do think Trevor Lawrence slid a little bit late on the play. But when you look at Al-Shaair's past, he has a history of some dirty plays and hitting guys out of bounds. And yeah. So I think that, he did it intentionally. He tried to make it look like he was letting up as Lawrence was sliding, but you could see his forearm go straight to his head.
Yep.
And, whenever a guy has a history of making dirty plays like that, you best believe there's a part of him that is doing these things on purpose. So even though I think Lawrence should protect himself a little bit more, I do think the hit was intentional because of his past.
Well, yeah, just even the highlights we're showing here. There's the punch to the face. Have you?
Yeah, after a late hit out of bounds on Kilam.
After a late hit out of bounds, and then you're chucking knucks on the sidelines to see that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. And I know that you probably know this. On Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys take on the Cincinnati Bengals, and with a win, the Dallas Cowboys could be a sneaky 5-7, and all of a sudden they're not dead in that NFC East division, and the Bengals got nothing to play for now. And now Jerry Jones is talking about giving Mike McCarthy potentially a contract extension. As a Cowboys fan, you've got to be excited at potentially 5-7 and maybe a shot at a wild card. But maybe it's not all doom and gloom in Jerry world for Cowboys fans. Is there a glimmer of hope, Darian? Is there a glimmer of hope?
You know what? As a Cowboy fan, you always like to keep that hope inside of you and always wish for the best. But, as a realist, you have to know that they're just not talented enough to compete with the better teams in the league. And even though this game is important and, it could be a great thing for the Cowboys, you still look at the Eagles. You look at some of these other teams in the NFC who are just strong teams. And I don't think the Dallas Cowboys could even compete with these teams.
Well, I think a lot of people that doubted the Eagles after them beating Baltimore on Sunday showed that they can play. They can play when it matters. There was enough offense and they played defense because Baltimore is a tough team to shut down, and they were able to contain Lamar Jackson. Tomorrow night, this could be one of the best games we've seen in weeks. Packers at Lions. The Lions are high flying, but the Packers are good, and Jordan Love, and I know it took some years and the patience or whatever. Green Bay just seems like a complete football team in all three phases. Do you see that as well when you watch them?
Absolutely. I mean, they're well coached, man. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They seem to do everything right at the right moment. Coach LaFleur is just a great talent recruiter. And, you can just see that. So this will be an amazing game between Green Bay and Detroit. Two NFC powerhouses going at it, a division game. And I'm looking forward to it. This is the time of year where, the better teams are going to, lay their foot down and show what they're about. And we'll see in this game who's the better team.
And we'll end on this double talk with Darian Durant. The Buffalo Bills, if Josh Allen, if they don't win a Super Bowl, all of this is wasted, right? All of this is for naught, because they're regular season champions, and yes, they mercied the 49ers in the snow, but if they don't win in the playoffs and actually put it together and win something for Buffalo, I think this is an incredible waste of talent because he's doing his part. I don't know what else he can do, but if they can't get over the hump.
I know, but it's just so hard to win in the NFL, right? And, all you can ask for is to have a franchise quarterback that can put you in position year in and year out. And, you just have to have breaks go your way. And, Tom Brady took over the NFL for maybe a 20-year run, and now you're seeing Pat Mahomes do the same thing. So what you want to do in between those times when Tom doesn't win, you saw Eli go in and sneak one, and the Eagles got another one. So Josh Allen just has to be ready when his opportunity comes, and it has to be when Pat Mahomes isn't at his best, and he can sneak Buffalo in, maybe get a snow game for an AFC championship or something like that. But everything just has to work out. Things have to go your way. We know that Pat Mahomes is, the man right now, and he's going to be the guy over the next 10 years that you have to beat. So I feel like Josh Allen just has to find a small window and just try to get in there and get one. Don't look at it as you want to go and get multiple. You just want to get one because Pat Mahomes is the Tom Brady of this generation.
And I think one of the best sneaky pickups that may go under the radar, but he could come through in the playoffs and be a difference maker, would be Amari Cooper. And maybe he's a guy that can kind of get them over the hump in a playoff game that, if KC stumbles and Buffalo can take advantage, like I said, if for whatever reason, if they don't have to play Kansas City, but they may, and can get around them somehow, that I hope that they don't waste this, because it's fun watching him play football.
Yeah.
But to not have that
player.
success, he's a really good player. All right. It's the Wednesday edition of Double Talk. If you don't know it already, you can follow him on social media, on Twitter at Darian Durant. Darian, as always, we love when you come on the radio. We'll let you get back to the fam. You're in the garage right now, aren't you? At the house? Do you go in the garage?
I am. I know you can hear these things. I have to get away because the kids will just run and they'll bang on the door all of a sudden. But then tonight I hear cars, helicopters, so it's just all type of distractions today.
Uh-oh, helicopters. They'll be like, Dad's famous. He's got to go on the radio here. Give Dad 20 minutes so he can go on and he can talk to Rider Nation. We love you. You're our guy. We appreciate it. All right. It's Double Talk with Darian Durant.
Thanks,
if you missed any part of this, you can always go back and catch the podcast at sportscage.com.